Here today. I appreciate it and wanted to roll out some specific policy initiatives for when I take office here in the new year. When elected and upon moving into the office, one of the things that I'm going to be very focused on, and as you know, is increasing the amount of information readily available to the public through the Auditor State's website and through other means. A new report was released by the Annenberg Institute at Brown University, which called for increased accountability and transparency in the taxpayer-funded charter schools. The auditor is empowered to make that happen by pulling back the curtain on some of the practices within districts. As auditor, I will conduct an annual assessment of the overall impact of charter schools on traditional districts. The assessment would review the flow of funding between charter schools and traditional schools, student enrollment trends, along with educational outcomes from those schools. The assessment would also identify best practices within both public schools and charter schools to ensure best practices are being shared to improve educational outcomes as a whole, and the results of the assessment would be made widely available to the public through the Auditor State's website. The original idea behind charter schools was that innovation within charter schools would help drive innovation in schools generally. Unfortunately, given Ohio's lackluster performance, being the poster child of what not to do in the wild, wild west of charter schools, unfortunately that has not taken place in Ohio, but in many other states we have seen where there is, in fact, sharing of information between charter schools and traditional districts that help improve educational outcomes for the citizens, which is what we as elected officials should be focused on. Similar to Washington State, all post descriptions of the purpose and scope of performance audits, like audits of districts and charter schools, once the audit work begins. And the post would include a description of the project, a summary of the topic, and a summary of the plan for conducting the audit. With respect to accountability, any organization or entity that receives state funds needs to be held accountable, and obviously there's a lot of discussion about whether or not there's appropriate clawbacks and mechanisms to get dollars back that the taxpayers have fronted as incentives. The current auditor said there's no such thing as a hurry-up audit, but that's just not true. In fact, the auditor of Missouri, who's a Republican, currently uses a rapid response audit program. Understanding that if you wait, as fraud, waste, and abuse has been identified, those organizations continue to spend taxpayer money that then will not be able to be collected and used for a better purpose. In fact, there is a way to do a hurry-up audit. It's a rapid response team, and under my leadership, we would activate that whenever there's substantial and credible evidence that fraud, waste, and abuse or violations of state or federal law, rules or regulations, or other significant mismanagement, waste of public resources is alleged. We would pursue a rapid response audit in order to curtail the loss of public dollars. We believe that there's a lack of confidence by the public when you are unable to quickly hold these organizations accountable and make sure that they don't continue to misspend dollars that was appropriated for the benefit of the public. Finally, as auditor, one of the things that we should be doing is better partnering with the folks in communities where these audits are, where these awards for economic development are being received. And any organization or entity that receives state funds will be held accountable, and the office will make sure to partner with communities along with the recipients of the awards to do a better job of training them on how, upon the receipt of the money or grant, how to provide their own accounting as the recipient. If you're a business and you're receiving grant dollars or incentives from the state, we need to do a better job of instructing them how they can use those dollars, how the auditor plans to provide oversight, and how we plan to monitor it. And to the community where that business resides, we need to do a better job of informing them these are the obligations and responsibility of the grant recipient. If they've agreed to create X number of jobs in the community deserves to understand that and help to hold those businesses accountable for the economic progress and development they're supposed to be creating within the local community. And so, in fact, what I will do is create and establish a watch on state economic development grants and contracts and make recommendations for clawback. A task force will be convened upon my taking office to review and clarify Development Service Agency award agreement templates as recommended in the 2010 Economic Development Accountability Report. The task force would address award recipients' reporting forms and deadlines to standardize the process. This would help eliminate confusion and help communities that have businesses within the community receiving funds to make sure that they are remaining in compliance and creating the economic benefit for those communities that the businesses are promising. Additionally, an education program would be developed to help economic development award recipients. The recommendation comes again after a 2010 review of the state's economic development compliance. The review found state award recipients often lack basic knowledge of their awards, and some even fail to understand the transparency and accountability required when accepting the assistance. It's important that those businesses that are receiving these awards have an understanding of what the expectation is as far as the grants that they're getting from state government. And if they are required to create X number of jobs, if they're required to put up private investment dollars, when they are required to provide their own auditing, oversight, and ability to be audited, we need to do a better job making sure that they can, in fact, follow the rules. And so at the front end, when businesses are receiving these sorts of grants, we should be doing our part as state government to explain to them what they need to do to make sure that they too stay in compliance, so that they don't put themselves in a position where the state is coming back and trying to claw back dollars because they've been misspent because of the fact that these folks just don't understand what the dollars were intended for in the first place. Again, a number of these recommendations were made back in 2010. There hasn't been any real steps forward to implement them, but they are good ideas. And again, a number of what the things I'm proposing are bipartisan ideas. As I indicate, the idea of a rapid response audit is a Republican auditor in Missouri who is performing these right now, despite the fact that our current auditor says that you can't do that. So I would be happy to take any questions.